So good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everyone, whoever is coming to this webinar and from whichever part of the globe. I am Veda. I'm the one who's coordinating this training program, and I've been sending out all the emails and announcements. At the outset, I would like to thank each one of you who has registered for this. For the next 10 minutes, I will just present an overview of who all are the team who has enabled this and also how the whole training program is going to develop. And then you will have the technical presentation from Professor Anand Suresh. At the end, we will take question and answers from the registrants. All of you at any point in time can actually put questions in the chat box and we will take it up at the end. So let me begin. As I said, I'm Veda. I'm from Tyndall National Institute in Ireland, and I chair the Chapter Engagement Committee from Sensors Council, who is the sponsoring agency for this activity, and also the Vice President of Institute of Smart Structures and Systems, ISSS, who are the technical co-sponsor of this training program. So let me acknowledge the team from the Sensors Council to begin with. We have our president, Professor Deepak, and we need to acknowledge because of his guidance, we are able to do this. Anil, of course, is the president-elect, and he is the one who is instrumental actually in not just getting this funding, but also to enable this Zoom and live link. And his whole team, I would like to acknowledge them. We have Thilo from Austria, who is the VP Technical Operations, under which the Chapter Engagement Committee comes from. So thanks to Thilo. We also have Krikor, again from UK, and he is the VP for Educational Activities. So as this is a training program, this was written by the Chapter Engagement Committee with me and with Krikor in the educational activities jointly to get the funding. We also have Hamida, who chairs the publicity committee, and it's because of her and her whole team that we have huge number of registrants which came in. And finally, of course, me, who I'm chairing the Chapter Engagement Committee. So this is the funding agency and the acknowledgements to them. And from Institute of Smart Structures and Systems, this is a society mainly active in India, but we are trying to grow global. Both the Sensors Council and ISSS have celebrated their 25 years of existence. And it is through ISSS that we have all the nodal centers of this training program. So the president there is Professor Naukant Bhatt from Indian Institute of Science. Professor G.K. Anand Suresh, who is now going to give the technical talk. He is one of the past presidents that we have had. We have Professor Ashok from IIT Hyderabad. He's a member secretary. And Professor Sunil from BMSC Bangalore, he's the treasurer. And I'm the vice president. And you can see I'm the main link between both the agencies or both the societies. We also have a training working group that we have constituted. And I would like to acknowledge again Professor Anand Suresh. He's the brainchild behind all this activity. It was he who started this in India about 15 years ago. Then we have Geronimo from Texas Instruments in the US. Sudhanshu, he's here and he is part of IAC as well in India. And I have my colleague Sambuddha Khan from Tyndall National Institute, who's my colleague in the MEMS group. And of course, me, I'm also from Tyndall. The recording has stopped.
Just a minute, ma'am. It's resume, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Now I would like to introduce you all to the chapter chairs and also to the nodal center in charges. Carlos, are you here? Carlos is from the Spain chapter, so you can see Carlos. Thank you, Carlos, for being part of this activity. And with him, the nodal center is Venkatesh from BITS Pilani. Venkatesh, are you here? Can you please come online?
Hi.
Yeah, so that's Venkatesh, and we need to acknowledge he's going to be driving this on the technical side. We had 48 registrants from Europe, and they will be managing from Europe. The largest registrants have come from Asia, mainly from the Indian subcontinent. Just to let you know, from southern India alone, we had more than 200 registrants. So I had to bring in two people and two chapters here. So Nitya, you can see here, she is actually managing the Southern India registrants, minus, of course, the ones which go to Hyderabad side, because there is Sangeeta on the other side, and also the students from Anna University and students from IAC and BMSC are removed from hers because all these are in Southern India, but they're given to the other counterparts. So thank you, Nitya, for being there. She's from Nitte Meenakshi Institute in Bangalore. Then we have Sangeeta and Professor Shri. Sangeeta is chairing the Hyderabad chapter in India, and the nodal center for her will be Anna University, led by Professor Shrija. So Professor Shrija is also here, and thank you to both of you for enabling this. And we, as you can see, you have huge number of registrants from that region. Moving ahead, we have the Africa chapter. The chair for Africa chapter is from the Kenya chapter is Emmanuel. Emmanuel, are you here? Can you please come online?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so that's Emmanuel. Thank you, Emmanuel, for being part of this activity. And the nodal center for the Africa registrants is from ISER Bhopal, led by Professor Shantanu. So Shantanu, can you also come online once?
Hi, yeah, I have already turned on my audio and
Yeah.
video. I guess you can hear me.
Yeah. Thank you, Shantanu. So we have 88
you.
registrants from Africa, and it's a huge number. Thank you for registering. And then we have the America, South and North America, that includes US, Canada, and Brazil and other regions. So we have there the Brazil chapter headed by Euclides Schumer. Euclides, are you here by any chance? Or is it Pedro? Any one of you there? I do not see them. And the nodal center is Indian Institute of Science, IAC, led by Sudhanshu, also assisted by Professor M.M. Nayak, and from BMSC, Professor Sunil. So all three, if you can come online once and just say hello. Yeah, that's Sudhanshu. I can see and others. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for being part of this activity. So let me take you all through how we are going to run this activity. So we'll have 5 webinars, which I'll be coordinating. Today, of course, is the first one where we are going to introduce you to MEMS technology. And I'll be, as I'm telling now, I'm going to be telling you how this training is going to happen. The next webinar will be on 29th October, and that will be by the Science Foundry and by Sudhanshu, who will tell you what is an MPW run and what's the concept of MPW and how it is helpful. So we'll have 2 speakers on that day. Then by mid of November, we will have an introduction to SOI process, which is from the Science Foundry. And this will be done by my colleague, Dr. Sambuddha Khan from Tyndall. And then we will have by November end, we will have industry application of MEMS. So we'll have 2 industry experts coming on board. And then we have finally the last webinar, which will be on testing, characterization, and packaging of MEMS devices. This will be done by Professor M.M. Nayak from Indian Institute of Science and also Professor Sanket from BITS Pilani but Hyderabad chapter. They will talk about how we can package this, how you can test this, and finally characterize. So this is the schedule of the webinars, but the actual training is going to be done by these nodal centers and the chapters. So that training will happen from October to December of this year. The nodal centers are developing the curriculum. The chapters are basically a bridge between the registrants and the nodal center because we have to run these program in your time zone. So the chapters will enable that. The nodal center and the chapter will decide the schedule and they will be in touch with you going further based on to which region you have been assigned and which nodal center you have been assigned. All training schedules will be shared and with all the registrants. So let's say an next person cannot attend for some reason on one particular day in a particular session that he or she is assigned, but would be free on some other day. They are free to attend the others, but I would still suggest you stick to your nodal center and to your chapter, because what we will be doing then is to help you to submit designs for fabrication. So it's very essential you try to stick to one particular schedule as much as possible, but still we'll announce and tell you all the schedules that will happen. So the design submission is going to be next year. So you will have it from January to May. Each region will make themselves into smaller groups. Each group will have few of them who understand this technology well. So for example, from Indian Institute of Science, IISc, there can be 2 of them who understand this technology well. And let's say someone in Brazil do not understand it that well, but we'll make a group such that there is a group submission of designs happening, and the ones who are new to this technology learn from the others, and all the designs truly will be then global. It will be cross institution, cross countries, and even cross continents. And that's what IEEE is all about, and we want to enable this to happen. So all devices which pass the design rules and which are fabricatable, we will find some resource to fabricate it. I have some funding, but I'll also be asking for additional funding depending on how many designs get finally submitted. Now, in the 9mm by 9mm space that we have, I'll be dividing them into equal regions for all the 5 regions we have identified. And we'll try to first put in good designs in that space. And all the ones which could not go, we will have one more mask developed. We also plan to have a design contest to see which is the best design. We'll have an independent committee which will decide on that. So the training is, as I said, all the trainings are to be scheduled, and finally what I want to say is that the testing of the devices will be done on your own basis. We are not going to fund you for testing of your devices. IEEE and IEEE will only be able to tell you in your region where you can go and get tested, but we cannot fund you for it, for the very simple reason that each institution will have its own different rates for testing. And also it depends on what kind of device you're finally fabricating. But we can just tell you what are the resources available around your region, or even beyond remotely if you can get it tested. So you need to find that resource of funding to test your devices. And one last thing that I want to say is that IEEE and IEEE will not take care of any IP issues that come out of this. It's purely an educational activity. We here want to see that you all learn something new, and we are able to help you understand this new technology that you don't understand it currently. That's our pure objective. We are not going to get into any IP conflicts or issues. And finally, I want to say that there are a few conditions for you to get the completion certificate. We would expect you to have at least 80% of attendance. And that's the reason I said try to stick to your region and to your nodal center in your attendance. They'll be giving you some assignments to be completed. Make sure you submit them. And next year, we'll have another separate certificate for those who submit their designs. And that will be an additional certificate other than what we'll give for this training completion certificate. So this is how we are going to run the program. And we will take your question and answers at the end. But thank you for listening to me. I stop here, and I will let Professor Anand Suresh to actually share his screen. And while he does so, I will introduce him. Professor Anand Suresh is Dean of Mechanical Sciences in Indian Institute of Science. He is actually the past president of IEEE. And way back in 2011-12 is when this idea came up to him. And since then, he has been instrumental in having 4 such successful rounds of activity where devices got fabricated in what we call in India this as MEMS community chip activity. I don't want to say more. He will talk more about himself. But all I can say is that today, if I'm in the MEMS field, it is Professor Anand Suresh who is instrumental for that. And I need to thank him more than I can by words for that. Professor, this is your stage. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Veda. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all of you who are in different parts of the world. It's really nice to see all of you, more than 200 I see who are in this meeting, to have a conversation about MEMS. So let me share my screen, and yeah. Whenever you cannot hear, one of you just have to say that, and I think we will, in case there is a problem with the internet. Okay. Right. As I said, MEMS is something that is almost 4 decades old, and I had the good fortune to be part of MEMS field when I was doing my PhD. When MEMS field actually began seriously, that was in early 1990s, and at that time I had immensely benefited from the foundry service that started soon after I became a faculty member, because to develop a fabrication facility, if one doesn't exist, it takes a long time. So using the foundry service was very helpful, and that stuck with me, and so did it with the people who were involved in MEMS early on. And so we thought we should do this in India, and we did with the team that Dr. Veda talked about. And then now it has spread to different parts of the world. That is really heartening. And I am at the Indian Institute of Science in Bengaluru, India, in mechanical engineering, in the Division of Mechanical Sciences. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about MEMS. See, the first thing that we need to note about MEMS is that they're systems. S that we have here is really something that we need to pay attention to. Micro electromechanical systems, they're systems. They're systems because they have all of these things. They can have actuation. Not that all MEMS devices should have all of these, but if somebody wants, they can integrate all of them into a single MEMS chip. Actuation, sensing, and power. There are power MEMS also. And processing, you can have electronic circuitry there. And you can also interface with the external world. In this case, external world will be quite large. The sensor, MEMS chip, or actuator will be small, all integrated, and we can interface with the world. That was the really exciting thing that everybody felt at the beginning of the MEMS field. They're small. That is not the only reason to be excited about it, that they combine a lot of things. In fact, many of you probably know by now that MEMS devices are in many of the consumer goods that we use. When I say consumer goods, one of the things is smartphone that has MEMS. And also for academics, one of the consumer goods is the projection that we have, right? The PowerPoint projection that we do in our lecture halls and classrooms and everywhere, that uses this digital light processors. That is one of the early applications. And if you think about that particular device, I'm a mechanical engineer. When I think about that, it's really exciting because there is no other mechanical system before this particular device, digital light processor. There are a lot of mirrors. All of them are individually controllable. Millions of them are individually controllable, individually actuatable. Such a thing did not exist in the world before. If you think about big mechanical systems like airplanes and ships and trains and big machines, they do not have so many moving parts, not millions. An airplane might have a lot of fasteners in large number, but they are not moving. To have something with million parts moving and each of them individually controllable is really an amazing thing for a mechanical engineer. And MEMS field being a system, it involves lots of things. So a lot of different kinds of engineers get involved. And what I'm saying about from the mechanical engineering viewpoint, that they're amazing machines because they have unprecedented number of moving parts, each individually addressable and controllable. Similar things people in other disciplines also find. That is the nice thing about MEMS. It's multidisciplinary and everybody finds it exciting. And if we actually say why MEMS, other than the fact that they're amazing, early on, people used to put this answer. That is, there are million euros and $1 million, or million rupees and million, whatever your currency is. But that was million. But today, it's actually much more than that. I just asked Google, how large is MEMS market? I got this answer. You could also do it, from 2023 for the next decade, right? We are in 2024 now. So you can see that it is 14 billions in 2022, and then 2023 it was 15 billion, and predicted in 2033 is 43. Of course, 10 years ago, people thought it would reach $72 billion, by now. But it is 43, but it's not a small number. If you are curious and ask the same question, how large is nanotechnology market? It'll be twice as much. Maybe they will say 70 or 80 billion dollars, right? So MEMS is uh, very attractive for economic reasons as well. It's attractive in terms of how wonderful these are, how multidisciplinary these are, but it also makes economic sense. That's why they're here to stay. Just a note, and you can actually find this information very easily on the internet to get excited about what kinds of devices, right? And in fact, let me show you that. If I just escape for a while and go here, I have one thing open here, some motor intelligence. So they actually list that kind of devices. There are RF MEMS, oscillators, microfluidics, optical MEMS, environmental MEMS. There are a lot of environmental sensors that we have, microphones, inertial MEMS that has been a big driver for this field, pressure MEMS, pressure sensors. That has been the first application. Every car has those, right? And some of the newer ones, microbolometers, have been around, but now they're commercially available also. Thermophiles, inkjet printer heads. Accelerometer is part of inertial MEMS, but they're also used in non-inertial sensing applications. Gyroscopes. And then if you look at the applications, then automotive field, healthcare, really big and growing MEMS market. A lot of industries use sensors, consumer electronics and telecom devices, and aerospace and defense, right? And if you let's say geography, this motor intelligence has done that, and geography, if you see all continents everywhere, only Antarctica is missing here, right? So it's really universal and really multidisciplinary, right? So now if you actually think about MEMS, somebody like me who was there at the beginning when MEMS field started, early on, let's say mid 1980s is when MEMS started. And then the craze, I use the word craze here, craze for MEMS began in early 1990s. So at the time, it was exciting to work in this field. Possibilities seemed immense, and everybody was excited, right? And in those days, when people were discussing at conferences, after sessions are over in the evening, when you sit down and think about what will be the future of this field, MEMS, and people used to say that long after MEMS ceases to be a fad, MEMS will be pervasive in all disciplines. That is, there won't be any department of MEMS like mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, physics, chemistry. There won't be a department because MEMS is everywhere. And that day arrived sooner than what people thought. By after first decade of 20th century, by 2010, I mean, that's already true. That does not happen to many fields, right? In the sense that I already said, MEMS makes economic sense, and it's multidisciplinary. A lot of people, chemistry, physics, biology, everybody, and all engineering disciplines are involved, and it's pervasive now. It just happens. Nobody says anything about it. It's like, oh, you using thermodynamics principles, mechanics, or chemical kinetics. It's similarly, oh, you have MEMS. So it's not given a special status anymore, and that's a good thing because it has uh, spread into all disciplines, and it's here to stay. It's not like a fad. It just came and be there and then go away, right? That's really wonderful about this field. Very quickly, it attracted the industry. There were really commercial successes that drove the field. And then governments quickly realized in all countries, and they invested and trained people, and everything has happened. And academics, of course, have been driving it all along for nearly, I would say, half a century, right? And because of that, we are now discussing this MEMS fab services, right? Because it's a field that has really, grown and established itself, and is here to stay. I think there is a small scribble on the screen. I don't know how it came. Yeah. Okay. All right. So just let's, I think you all know the size of MEMS, but it's good to, get that context here. So especially um, nanotechnology, after it started, MEMS seemed to take the back seat, but it is not really that way. It probably went out of the radar of the funding agencies, but industry, governments, and academia have been pursuing, even though it's not the kind of limelight when nanotechnology came along. Nanotechnology, of course, is very small, right? Nanometers. Microsystems or MEMS that we call will start somewhere from submicron to a few millimeters. And then, of course, macro systems are there. So the two boxes that I have put in gray here are the size domain of MEMS. Okay, that's where packaged ICs are, packaged MEMS are, and lab on a chip, type of devices. Now people say system on a chip and lots of other things, right? But it's also nice to see that many things here, bacteria and biological cells and optical fibers and other things are of the same size as MEMS. In fact, people say that once MEMS came into being, it became like a lab, a living lab, because biological cells are of the same size that MEMS devices are. So now we can probe biological world, uh, unlike just looking through a microscope and studying, now we can actually manipulate them. And that was really exciting for biology. And then chemistry. And of course, a lot of physics people are also involved, and of course, a lot of engineers, right? What enabled all these actually is machining, right? What we call micro machining or micro fabrication, as opposed to macro machining or the nano machining that we have. We are talking about micro machining here, where fraction of a micron all the way to a couple of millimeters. That's where we can carve out features, and whatever designs we make, we do, we can actually make them, and make them in a way it's robust. It's as robust as electronics, because all these processes of MEMS are derived from microelectronic processes. And unlimited applications. Okay. And that reason for that is movable mechanical elements. That's what distinguishes them from microelectronic circuit elements. And they coexist. And that is the really wonderful part of integration. That kind of integration, I would say, does not exist in any of the machines that we know. Sensors, actuators, power, and processors, everything. Okay, and of course, data storage, everything is like integrated in some sense. The only other thing I think of that integrates so well is a biological cell, okay, which is of course much superior, but I think people will get there. Most of the MEMS applications are in microsensors. That's how it started. That's how it has been. That's probably how it's going to be also. And there are also some micro actuators. Many of them are coming up now, filters and resonators and other things. And power MEMS also had started a couple of decades ago. It's still of interest, where you can have distributed power. One of the highlights of MEMS devices our MEMS systems is that there is everything distributed. Like I said, digital light processor, there are multiple micro mirrors, each of them doing something. And that is the thing. Everything is distributed sensing, distributed actuation, distributed power as well. Now we have metamaterials with all the capability of microfabrication. You can make things that have unusual properties. So they're not really materials, but they have the unusual properties. We call them metamaterials. Microfluid is another big revolution in MEMS. It did not start at the beginning of MEMS. Once it came, I think it changed the, I would say, gradient of MEMS. It started growing much faster. Lab on a chip, system on a chip. Now people have organ on a chip and body on a chip. All of these things are there now. And healthcare applications, biosensors has increased. And now we are talking about micro robots also. These are untethered things. And people talk about hospital inside a body now. It's not about having one or two implanted sensors or actuators, something. You can have an entire system you can have inside the body that will sense what might go wrong and then fix it. So you don't have to go to the hospital. It will be inside your body. It may look like science fiction. In fact, many things that we take for granted in MEMS today sounded like science fiction when the MEMS field started 4 or 5 decades ago. So when I say hospital inside a body, I don't think it should surprise anybody. It's bound to happen, right? There'll be things inside which Richard Feynman had called swallow the doctor, right? Now it's not the doctor, you can swallow the hospital. Okay, so I think that's an overview of what MEMS field offers to us. And as Dr. Veda already mentioned, now the opportunities for working in MEMS should be available to all. That's what IEEE Census Council and ISSS are committed to and organizing this. And it's really nice that we have this group. Okay. And ISSS, of course, this is the website if you want to see what else ISSS does. And you can go to IEEE website and then see the Census Council information as well. Okay, where do we begin? Dr. Veda described that we have these nodal centers in different zones of the world, and all the faculty, many of them are in the meeting today, or all of them are in the meeting today. They'll all help you. But I just want to take you through the process to see where do you begin. Okay, first thing that we need to, or you need to ask yourself is, what do you want to develop? Okay, sometimes if you are a newcomer to your field, it's okay to do things that have been done already before. Okay, just for gaining experience, right? You want to build a pressure sensor, accelerometer, or things that people did a couple of decades ago. If you want to do it now, there is nothing wrong with it. You can do that just to gain experience and feel confident that whatever you design, you can make it. Okay, you want to do something new? That's also possible. And what do you need for that? Of course, you have to know the state of the art. And that's where all the nodal coordinators and mentors will help you all. We're all here to help. And you have to come up with a concept and what need you want to fulfill. And then how do you design? How do you simulate? All that happens as we go along in this journey. And fabrication is what is being facilitated here. And as Dr. Veda mentioned, testing and characterization are not within the scope, but I'm sure we can tell you where you could go, right? While it's not being facilitated directly to you, after the devices are fabricated, you'll be directed to, okay, maybe you can explore this in your geographical area. Okay. And there'll be support for design, and also you will have access to microfabrication, right? So one other thing that I would say it's a good thing to think about whenever you start working on a MEMS device, a new MEMS device. It could be new to you or it could be new to the field itself. The scaling, that is what decides the performance of a MEMS device. Everything need not be miniaturized. That is something that we need to note. Because just because things can be made small, the micro scale, does not mean that you need to miniaturize everything. There are some, micro devices that do not function at a larger size. Okay, there you have to miniaturize. But there are some which do not work very well at the micro scale, micro sizes. Right? Then don't think about them unless you have a new idea and then you want to do it. Right? So that's something that scaling should be looked at to see whether you get the performance advantage by miniaturizing something. Okay. Now there are a lot of papers coming up in micro machine speakers. That's a new area, right? Because we call it a microphone or micro speaker, but now we can use MEMS technology to make it. What are the new things that you can do with it, right? So people have, I would say, played with light because of MEMS devices. Now you can play with sound also, right? Similarly, you can play with a lot of other things. And the scaling effects also enable you to understand and also teach. If those of you are in the universities, the teaching is very exciting when you think about MEMS, because MEMS integrate so many different energy domains. Whenever you look at them, you have this coupling across energy domains, and it's really wonderful to understand physics. Many times, as a mechanical engineer, I had to go back and learn, electronics and optics and this and that to do something. And similarly, chemical engineer, when they want to involve in MEMS, they have to learn the other things. So this is the interdisciplinarity that comes through, which is really rewarding. And that's the exciting thing about MEMS, because there are multi-physics domains are involved there, or I would say chemistry domains. It's good to call multi-energy domains, right? And simple analysis, like what we call back of the envelope calculations, would also be helpful. You learn about modeling, how to, if there's a complicated system, you want to understand it, we cannot be doing, full scale simulation at the beginning, because that will be huge investment of time, and the insights that you gain will not be commensurate with the time that you spent on the full scale simulation. So you have to look at simple models, and there are excellent books. The one by Professor Steven Centuria called Microsystem Design talks about this modeling quite a bit. And I would highly recommend that you think about modeling also at the outset of doing this. Yeah. And then you think about materials. So what are materials that are used in MEMS devices? Silicon, of course, because that's what started this field. But then we don't need to stick to only silicon today, although this is going to be about silicon. That's where we start. MEMS 101 material is silicon, and it probably will be like that for, substantial period in the future as well. But then polymers are catching up, and so are metals and even ceramics, right? So these things, keep changing. So if you look at early period of the MEMS field, which we could call phase one, what people did at that time was just use whatever materials are available for microfabrication processes. They were just using those processes. That is, microelectronics already existed, and those materials, silicon, its oxide, nitride, they were being used with those processes. And then a decade later, people started to make new processes, because microelectronics mostly was developed for making things that do not move. What MEMS need, movable structures. So people had to make new processes, develop new processes, microfabrication processes, that I would say phase two. And then once the turn of the 21st century, which we can call phase three, new materials started coming with the existing processes that were there before. These new materials are active materials, piezoelectric materials, shape memory, and magnetic materials, and so forth. They all started coming in. And then now, new process for new materials. So that also has, I think we'll probably pass this phase. Now people are trying to do even biological things. Can you integrate cells with MEMS, bacteria with MEMS, and so forth? So it's a phase five is what I think you're all part of, right? So there are a variety of materials, but here we'll stick to silicon. Now let me talk about design a little bit. As I said, scaling analysis is really important, and I strongly recommend. There are now a couple of books with these titles, Scaling in MEMS, and that I think you should, if you're interested, send me an email or send Dr. Veda an email. We'll help you how to find that scaling analysis, so you can apply to your device that you want to design and make. And lumped modeling, this is what I said, modeling. Let's not go to full-scale simulations right away. We have to do some, basic modeling to understand the device. And CAD, of course, you have to make the geometry of your MEMS device, and then computer-aided engineering simulation. Because multi-physics, there are a lot of software programs that are available, or you can use your own thing and write in Python or MATLAB. That simulation you can do. But after doing scaling analysis, lumped modeling, and then geometry, and then you go to simulation. And after that comes the microfabrication. So this is one of those things. Microfabrication requires, like many things, mastery of that in order to do it well. And it takes, substantial investment of time. Even if you have access to a microfabrication facility, today we call them nanofabrication, but anyway, their machines are similar. So you need to have access, and you can learn and do it, but it takes a long time. So if somebody can do it for you, you don't have to learn it. So you can focus on the design. And that is the philosophy here. That is, if there is a foundry, as we call it, MEMS Foundry service who can take your designs and make it and give it to you, I think we should grab that opportunity. And that's why you're all here. Okay, so like I said, early on, this had started. This process called MEMS, multi-user MEMS processes, had started in late 1990s, right? And that is still there in one form or the other. It was MEMS Cap, and now it's called Science Foundry. And another, there were a lot of foundries. Another one was the Summit process, Sandia ultra small micro machining technology, and that was really a fantastic process. Very complicated things were done with it at Sandia Labs, and such a process probably doesn't exist today. Kind of thing that they could make a chain, like a bicycle chain. You think of miniaturized version of that. You could do chain drive. No, it was just to show capability of microfabrication. Okay, but then the foundries would have fixed number of layers, and then their thickness also will be fixed, and the sequence that you have will also be fixed. Like here you see they're all microns, right? 0.75 microns, 2 microns, and yellow ones are sacrificial layers to create gaps between the layers. I'm sure many of you already familiar with microfabrication fabrication technology. And if you take polysilicon, but people don't use polysilicon that much. People use SY. Things change. Silicon insulator wafer, which is much easier to realize. Okay, this was Sandia Labs process here with all the things that they have. Let me. Okay, yeah. So just to tell you, in late 1990s and early 2000s, people could make an entire motor, electrostatic motor, very complicated. In fact, bearings at the macro scale will not be this complicated. These are all micro scale bearing, and this rotor would spin at millions of RPM and continuously. Sandia Labs had set up a web interface at that time where everybody can see this spinning and spinning and spinning, right? So reliability, everything was tested, and how MEMS devices fail also was studied, and people had a lot of confidence that these mobile things would actually work, right? And then the commercial applications took over. But pressure sensor only had a membrane or diaphragm, but other things would go really well. Okay, so some reason my computer is not moving forward. Yes, now it did. Okay, so one of the things that when you do the design, you have to keep the design rules in mind, and you have to really study them thoroughly and design accordingly, so that what you make will work for your device. If there is a mistake in one of the designs in this, what we call community chip, several people are putting device on the same wafer, same 9mm by 9mm square area. A particular design is faulty. One part comes loose because of etching, because you overlooked something that could actually wreck somebody else's device. So design rules have to be followed well for the success of your own design, and also for not damaging others. I think again, zonal coordinators would help you. Dr. Sudhamshu Shekhar is in the meeting, and also Dr. Sambudha Khan. These are the people who actually tested all the designs to make sure that all of them worked when we did the community chips in India. And it's also useful to, kind of geometrically emulate, graphically emulate your device. CAD software is available that I'm sure you all have access. Use the mask layouts. You can emulate, okay, this is deposited, this much thickness, or this is sacrificial, remove it. You can do all that to see that everything, looks feasible. And you can do simulate. Like I said, you can do back of the envelope calculations. And finally, the point is that before you submit your design for microfabrication, you should know what to expect from your device. Is it going to work or not? What might be the problems? All of that, if you think about it, that will be really useful. Okay, and all right. What I'll do now is with a few more minutes. I think I have another 15 minutes, I think, or 10 minutes. Is that right, Veda? I have 10 minutes, or how much time do I have?
If we can complete in 5 minutes, then we can take some questions.
Okay, sure. 5 minutes also fine. So I will just say my personal experience with and without MEMS fabrication service available, right? So there are some other devices that my students had made from force sensor, accelerometer, and some biological cells where we have these little grippers and some fun applications like what we call cognitive ring, that anyway, these are, at that time it was new, but now you have lots of wearable sensors, right? Um, and this was one of those devices where you can see this is a biological cell. It was a breast cancer cell that is being grabbed by a little gripper, micro gripper, and mechanically tested. And here is another one, which is a zebrafish embryo. They're all old ones. No, now people can do much more things with it. And you know, we are talking about academic institutions to see that you should have these foundry services for microfabrication. Some of you may be startup companies and you cannot have this kind of big investment. So what do they do? I just want to show one example, a company called Sperm, that is sperm and ovum put together. They do this uh, robot ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, is a egg cell here. And then there is a pipette, of course, is mouse and pipette that inserts the sperm for fertilization, right? So these people, this company is based in Bangalore. It's actually, from IIC incubative company. And so there, let's see. Okay. So you can see that they want to make this micro gripper to hold the egg cell and then do the sperm injection. This is like, this was made, here for lots of them they needed. So they need a service like this, right? Because they cannot have their own thing. And I'll just play this video for you to see that, this is the real thing. You get to see how something like this works. I hope the video is playing. That's actually little the thing moving in and out to inject into the thing. And this is the micro machined gripper being actuated. And this is a pipette where something will be coming and you can actuate it and so forth. This is assisted reproductive technology. You can actually rotate it. You can move the things in the woo site before fertilization, the egg, and you can actually see this all moving. This is a glass pipette going in there, and it helps really embryologists, right? I don't need to play the whole video, but the idea is that it actually is helping embryologists to see whether the egg cell is fertilized or not, how it divides, right? So all of these, and this poem company has a couple of babies born using this technology. Okay, and again, steps that you want to do. I'll just say this and then end it because I want to do a case study to show you starting from an idea how you would go through. I'll do that very quickly. These are the steps that each one of you will be going through, starting from an idea all the way to testing and characterization. Of course, this group will facilitate up to fabrication. Okay, so a case study, you start with an idea. For us, this was an idea, a paper published in Journal of Microelectromechanical Systems, where they had a two-terminal MEMS switch. It was a bistable arches are there, electrothermal actuators are there, and another bistable arch here, which is actually the switch. So when you activate this electrothermal actuation, you just apply voltage between these two ends. This will move down and then it will push here. This will push this beam to the other stable state and it comes back. This one will come back. And again, if you want to bring it back from the other state to this, it's a switch. You apply voltage between this, which is also electrically coupled. There's another actuator here. Then it will come back again and it will, hit it here, it will come back again. So it was a two-terminal micro switch. And there were some problems with it. So we thought that, we will look at them. That was back in 2017 and 18. We looked at the literature. That's something that, we always do in research. Look at the literature, what, just compare what people have done, various references. Our main reference was this reference 9. And then we did something with the electrothermally actuated one, but with a little twist. And that's where I think, you can bring in your ingenuity to do here. And I think I don't have time to go through all the details of this. The paper is there in the previous slide, so you can look at it. So again, first I emphasize you have to do back of the envelope calculations, simple things, just conceptually analyze, right? And see how it works. Let me just go through that. It'll be like this. The moment we actuate, this that actuator pushes this other beam, and this beam will go there, and the switch is closed now. And when I apply voltage again, this is also electrically connected to the same thing. So both get actuated. So this will, move back a little bit so that this thing will be moved up, and then it will move forward to bring it back to this state. So all you are doing, applying voltage at the same place, and you do different pulses, one for actuating certain voltage, another voltage to bring it back. So that was the idea. And we started with this. And then we did the back of the envelope calculations, analytical modeling for that. And analyzed individual actuator, modeled that, and lumped model. So here we needed something. This actuator here, we wanted it to go back and come forward. So a little trick was used there to have these beams inclined this way and inclined opposite way. Gives it a way, as time progresses, it will go negative and then go positive, right? You just need to apply voltage. You don't have to do anything else. It initially retracts and then moves forward. That was the innovation that we did here, which in the simulation you can see. It moves back and then moves forward. It's not dynamics. It's not vibrating. It's static simulation. In the sense it moves back, dynamic simulation. Of course, it's not vibrating. It moves back and then comes forward again, right? So this is the innovation there. And then analysis is, there is electrothermal, so electrical analysis, and then thermal analysis, and then mechanical analysis. You have to do this, and there'll be a lot of governing equations and partial differential equation to solve. But again, after doing the back of the envelope calculations, if you come to simulation, that will be really good, because by the time you would have gained some insights, understood your device very well. So I'm just showing that, we did all this modeling, analytical modeling, and just spring masses and dampers, and you put there, understand the device very well, and then go to full-scale simulations. Now you come to, finite element analysis, where everything is simulated, electrothermal elastic analysis, switch on and switch off, that you see here, right? You come to that, then you are ready to make your mask layouts. So you get the process details, make the masks, and then send them. Then you will get the devices and all the SCMs and pretty pictures that you want, and you test the device. So I'll just do this testing and then stop here. So you can actually see after a while this it came down and went up, right? And we can also do the thermal imaging to see the temperatures, electrothermals, how much temperature dynamically. So of course, they don't exactly match, but there are a lot of uncertainties in modeling assumptions. So real device has a lot more detail, right? So again, I leave here. So this is the process you would go through. You start with an idea, you do conceptual design, do the lump model. I encourage you to think about that. Then you go to detailed design and simulation, optimization if you need to do it, and then mask layouts and fabrication will be done. So I'll stop here, and you should start thinking about which application domain you want to focus on and which device. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you,
With-
Professor. It was a very nice and encouraging talk. So I now go to the question and answer session, and we have few questions that we can start answering. One, I want to tell that we won't be giving you access to any licensed software. One part of your eligibility criteria was that you should have access to a software. So that's for you to find out. But there is a question on, does this training program also encourage meta surface designs? So we will be taking you through, the Nodal Center and the chapters will be taking you through the training, and you will then understand what kind of devices you can actually fabricate. Not all kinds of devices are possible through an MPW run. It's mainly capacitive MEMS. So you will understand during the course that which application you can target. I don't want to go in too deep because that will be part of some other webinars and as part of your session. So with simulation software, there are many. COMSOL is the most common, but there is CovenTaware, ANSYS, MATLAB, even Python today. You can use, and there are plenty. There is a OnScale, which is a cloud-based one. Even Quensent is a new one, which is a cloud-based. So you have plenty of it to choose from. Depends on what access you have. A lot of college students have their end semesters during November and December. So this is something that you can discuss with your nodal center and with your chapter. They will try to schedule it as per the requirement of the registrant. So that's something that you have to engage with whoever you are assigned to. I won't be getting into that. List the software that we needed. I've done it. Any open source available for MEMS? Professor Anand Suresh, you want to answer that?
Yeah, actually, people who teach MEMS courses, we have our own code. So there are some MATLAB codes that we had developed, and I'll be happy to share and give a list of those. As Dr. Veda said, they're electrothermal, electrostatic, coupled, and some microfluidic also. They are there. But open source, I think, you have to basically look at university course websites, and that's where people actually give them, right? And
Yeah.
maybe my other colleagues know something that they use now for their teaching. Other
Yeah.
than
So I would say that when they are being trained, they will be given access to whatever is available. Even the reading material, your nodal center will actually share it with you. Different links, textbooks, whatever is required for this training will be shared with you. If someone can access software, then they can use this in iSTEM. The iSTEM is only for India. Please remember this. And also the institute has to be registered under iSTEM. So it's not for anyone outside India. IntelliSuite also can be used. Yes, there's no problem. I'm a research scholar working on SAW gas sensor and already simulated the model. Now I know no, you cannot do a SAW device. This is not piezoelectric based process that we are going to use. It's capacitive MEMS, so a SAW device cannot come here. I really hope you will provide the presentation in PDF. Yes, we will.
Sure.
This recording will be later available anyway on YouTube. So you can see there even PDF, what I have presented and what Professor Anand Suresh presented will be available and shared with all the registrants. What are the limitations in terms of fabrication can be found on micro nano scale designs? You want to take that? So.
Okay, yeah.
Oh.
Limitations, once the process rules are described, I think Dr. Sambuddha Khan will be giving that webinar, right?
Yeah, there are a set of design rules for this foundry. Those are your constraints, and we will be dealing in deep in one of the webinars. Also, your training will be based on those constraints. You will get to know.
Yeah.
Good presentation and event. When can we know in which chapter? So after today, I told the chapters so far not to connect with you all because I wanted to first acknowledge. After today, they will reach out to each one of you, and you will know to whom you are assigned. Yes, K layout is for mask and it is open source. Yes, everyone can use K layout. You will be taught the mask file generation using K layout as it is open source. So every nodal center will be doing that. How many people are in one nodal center? It is varying. We cannot say it. It depends on which region. Some regions, as you saw, are less registrants, so they have less people. Some have more registrants, so they have more. But everyone will be given attention. Hi, ma'am. Will you share the list which might have assigned the students? I will not share the list. The nodal centers and the chapters will actually connect with you. In fact, the chapters will connect with you. The training seminar every day, 3 hours, every single day. I'm not getting into that. What will be the schedule? I want to say that the schedule will be created by the chapter and the nodal center. It will be different for different regions. So they will get in touch with you. And when will we get the nodal center list? You will know after this. For those interested in scaling analysis in design, please guide on resources. You will be given all the resources you need to understand. If you don't get those resources, you can always approach me and I will try to share it. Thanks for the presentation. What fabrication process can be used in this training? It is no more called as MEMS. It is called only SOI process from Science Foundry. That's the process we'll be using. Can IDT design be made, done here? No, it's not piezoelectric substrate. As I said, it is not piezoelectric. It is just silicon and it is capacitive. Share notes, recording. Yes, it will be shared on YouTube channel. I think we have covered and we are exactly on time. Yeah, is there more? Can you also do design sensors? Yes, you can do actuators, you can do sensors. And that's what we will try to cover during the training. I mean, the nodal centers and the chapters will engage with you. You will very shortly know once the training begins, what is the idea you can actually try to do. The application you can choose from there. You will be guided throughout. You will not be left alone. We are there to help. You can always reach out to me. Even though there are nodal centers and chapters who will engage with you, I'll be happy to help in any fashion. But I'm not going to go to the level of how they are going to schedule. It depends from region to region. I want to take IEEE membership. You can talk to me that separately. All of you are welcome to become members of IEEE and IEEE. I can help you with that. So please contact me to become member of any one or both the societies. Do we get the experience to fabricate? No, we are not getting into the fab and doing it. This is more a design simulation later on when you test the testing part of it. We are not going into the fabrication part. You'll only be given an overview of fabrication during your training, but it's not going to be a hands-on training. So I think that's it. I would like to thank each one of you who participated, and especially Professor Anand Suresh. As I said, this is all his brainchild, and we started this close to 14, 15 years ago. And it's nice to see that it is becoming global. And hopefully all of us learn through the whole process. None of us is an expert. Every day we learn from each one of our teaching experience. And this is the first time we are trying to make it global. And I'm hoping to have all your cooperation to have this. So I don't have a nodal center in Korea or Japan. Japan doesn't even have a chapter, unfortunately, in the Sensors Council. I'm going to be trying that when I go to Japan this time. So we'll help you in testing, but we will not be funding you for testing. But we can just tell you where you can get tested. Is it possible to fabricate an accelerometer? Yes, accelerometer is very much possible using the process that we are going to teach you. That's a possibility, yes. So thank you once again, all of you. And we hope you all enjoy through this whole process. And everyone is welcome to give feedback at any point in time, and we will learn to improve from there. Thank you. Thank you once again. And you'll have the recording very soon on YouTube channel if you want to see this again, and we'll share the slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Veda. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.